Welcome to Football Predictions and Wine Pairings with me, Francis. Now, we only have one game to talk about, and that was the Super Bowl. It happened last Sunday, and now the season is over, so we're going to have to see what's going to happen come this August. But to recap, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and that was shocking because everybody thought it was a foregone conclusion that the Chiefs were going to win. And when I say everybody, I 100% mean me. I thought for sure that the Chiefs were going to win. But the Eagles, with their best defense in the league, reminded everybody that defense does, in fact, win championships. I mean, this is the second time that the Eagles have faced the Chiefs. The last time they faced each other was in 2023, and Kansas City won. So I feel like they also had that to prove that, not enough people were choosing them to win this game, and they had lost to Kansas City once before. I mean, it was a shocking game because the Chiefs were being shut out going into the halftime. And that was kind of surprising, but also not that surprising because many people don't remember the Chiefs had two losses. They had one loss to the Buffalo Bills, a loss that everybody remembers, but they also had a loss in week 17 to the Denver Broncos. And in that game, they lost 38-0. So, I guess sometimes it's not going to work out for you. But congratulations to the Eagles. It was great for them to win. It was nice to see Philly get what they deserve. So that was great. Now, there's a couple of kind of highlight things that I want to mention about the season, kind of like a season recap. And I'm actually going to have to read them off the list because I can't remember everything that I wrote down. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was that a few days before the Super Bowl, they announced all of the players that were going to be winning particular awards. And the biggest award that was up for grabs was MVP, league MVP. Now, Lamar Jackson had won it the last 2 years in a row, and he had a pretty great season, although he kind of shit the bed when it got to the big games. But other than that, MVP is based on the regular season, and he had a really good regular season. And so, of course, he was in the conversation, but a lot of people were talking about Josh Allen. Josh Allen also had a great season. He had a great season last year as well, but, not better than Lamar Jackson. So this year, Josh Allen won. And it kind of just felt like maybe it was time for him to win, that it was like a culmination of all the things that he had done. They just said, hey, let's finally give it to him. Because honest to God, if we were going off statistical information, either Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow should have won the MVP. So, I don't know, but I did see the votes, and because you can see after it's announced, they list who voted for who, and it's ranked choice voting. So, basically, everybody had either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson as their number one. So, it was like whoever had Josh Allen had Lamar Jackson as number two. So they just kept going back and forth. And then kind of like a very distant third was Joe Burrow. Okay, so on top of that, Coach of the Year went to Kevin O'Connell. He's the coach of the Vikings, and that makes total sense because the Vikings basically were a team you didn't talk about at all. And this year, everybody was waiting for them to do something. And they had a really great season with their 14 wins and their one win in the playoffs, but they were just, I felt like the stage was probably a little bit too big for them. But we'll see what happens next year. A lot's going to depend on if Sam Darnold wants to stay in Minnesota or if he's going to try to see if he can get a big pile of money someplace else. All right. The thing that I was really interested in all season was Offensive Rookie of the Year. And the Offensive Rookie of the Year wound up being Jaden Daniels. He's the quarterback for the Washington Commanders, which is an excellent choice. Okay, he had a remarkable season. It turned out that he tied Ben Roethlisberger for most seasons by a rookie quarterback, most wins by a rookie quarterback. They both had 14, but Daniels also had 2 playoff wins. So that kind of puts him in a class by his own. The one thing that was hilarious about this was there was somebody that I was hoping that maybe might edge out Jaden Daniels, and that was Brock Bowers. He is the tight end for the Raiders, and without him, the Raiders would have just been even worse than they were. I mean, he was like the one ray of sunshine all season long. And it turned out that Jaden Daniels almost won unanimously. He got 49 of the 50 votes. Someone gave one vote to Brock Bowers, so I thought that was kind of amusing. All right, Defensive Rookie of the Year was some guy named Jared Verse for the LA Rams. I didn't watch the Rams that much this season. I really wasn't impressed with them, and I guess this guy did a good job. Now, Offensive Player of the Year was a no-brainer, and it was Saquon Barkley, who also got some votes for MVP. And honestly, I felt like he should have been the MVP because he made such a difference in the way that Philadelphia looked this season versus last season. I mean, he had over 1,000 yards rushing this season. He just was unstoppable. And even though he really was not a factor in the Super Bowl because the Chiefs keyed in on trying to control Saquon Barkley, thereby leaving everybody else available to score, without him, I don't think the Eagles get to the Super Bowl, and they definitely don't win the Super Bowl. And then Defensive Player of the Year was Pat Surtain. He plays for the Broncos. Again, I'm not really watching them, so great. Okay, so I want us to celebrate the end of this season, not the end of our time together, because I have plenty of other things that we can talk about. NBA, Women's Month, Black History Month. There's so many other things that are happening that we'll be able to get together about. But I wanted to celebrate the end of the football season the only way I know how, and that's with sparkling wine. And so today, the sparkling wine is from a place that we have not had wine from, and it is a style that you may not be able to distinguish if you're not paying attention from champagne. So today's wine is Masson Fornat, and it is a Blanc de Blanc, which means white juice from white grapes. So this is Chardonnay, and this is from a place called Languedoc-Roussillon. Okay, it's a mouthful. And this is a sparkling wine that is from France. Now, as you know, only Champagne can be from Champagne. If you did not grow the grapes in Champagne proper, then it cannot be Champagne. If you did not crush and produce the grapes in Champagne proper, it cannot be Champagne. You can have so many sparkling wines from France, and this is an example. Now, where Languedoc-Roussillon is, it's actually in the south of France. It's kind of on the Riviera. It is from an area that's quite large. Kind of the biggest city that you may have heard of in the area that it covers is Marseille, which is like right next to Nice and Monaco, just like right, beautiful there, location on the Mediterranean. It goes from Provence all the way up to the Pyrenees. So you're talking about all the way bordering with Spain into the mountains. So it has a lot of variety, but this particular wine is from an area that's a lot closer to the water. And it really shows up in the way that the wine tastes and smells. So let's take a look at the wine. So if you take a look in this glass right here, you'll see it's got a beautiful kind of light color, very low bubble, very small, low bubble, which is actually quite nice. On the nose, I'm getting ocean. So I'm getting kind of the ocean smells. I'm getting rocks. I'm getting also a little bit of lychee because it has kind of a little fresh smell to it. So on the tongue, there's a touch of salinity. I'm getting a lot of citrus zest. It's kind of high acid. I can feel it on my tongue, and it's still kind of working its way through. It has a very long finish. It's actually really enjoyable, and it seemed like a perfect choice to have to kind of end out the season with a sparkling wine, which sparkling wines are great for celebrating, and I wanted to celebrate our time together. So this is a very enjoyable wine. I got it at the grocery store. It was about $20, and I think at that price point, it is a great choice for you to get. Now, I'm going to be pairing it with actually leftover brisket because brisket was made for my Super Bowl party, and I have some leftover. So I'll just be having it with a little bit of brisket and probably a little bit of rice. I'm not really sure what my carb is going to be. I have to find it. But just like any sparkling wine, it could also pair with the 7-layer dip that I still have in the fridge, or the queso fundido that was available, or even chips and dips. I mean, it's fantastic with chips and dip because it's able to cut through the saltiness and the richness. So I want to recommend that you get it. Let's recap it. Maison Fournant. Blanc de Blanc. It is a sparkling wine from France. It is $20. It is absolutely worth your time. All right, I will see you next week. I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about something though. Cheers.